Returning to our top story, Vladimir Putin claiming a massive victory, not a surprise one, in the Russian election. Let's bring in Professor John Blaxland from ANU. He's the North America representative for ANU, but he's here with us face-to-face. Nice to see you here.
Thank you.
Back in town for family reasons, which is nice. But let's start with the Putin result, because this, I mean, 90% of the vote, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But does he have a popular support in Russia? It's hard to know when you're talking about an autocrat like that. What's your read?
Yeah, that's like reading the polls in North Korea. Who's going to actually say that they don't support? Anecdotal indications are that it's very hard to find space for a contrary view. And if the only media you're getting is supportive of Putin and the war and, the rah-rah for the invasion of Ukraine and the ties with China and North Korea and Iran, it's hard to compete with that. It's hard.
Why do they bother? Why does he even bother with an election?
Well, I think this speaks to a marked degree of insecurity. This is a man who wants legitimacy. He wants to have the facade of people's support. And understandably wants to, use that as a tool, particularly. I mean, all these countries, it's very interesting to think about the countries that have the word democratic in their title. The Democratic Republic of Korea, People's Democratic Republic of Korea, I should say, DPRK. Like, really? It's just, it speaks to I think a hiding behind a veneer of democracy, because that's what's convenient. And it's very,
But it blows up in the sense, a metaphoric sense, when you look at the number of nearly 90%.
Oh, yeah, it's absurd.
It's ludicrous.
It is absurd. But when you control the outcome, you control the numbers, and that's essentially what's happened. And we've seen anecdotal indicators of vote stuffing, of the ballot boxes being stuffed, and I think that's pretty compelling. And no one seriously.
It's a very elaborate veneer, though, isn't it? They just for the veneer of democracy, but they have
I think it's
an elaborate effort to do it.
Yeah, it's important for internal legitimacy too, because there's a message that that as much as people don't necessarily buy it, enough people probably do, that this was a vote. We did vote. We did have a say. We were consulted, and there's no counterpoint argument to be made. But it works for that political purposes.
There was no quick win in Ukraine, but the Russian forces have shifted the momentum. They haven't been defeated either, obviously. But the Ukrainians, their iron will, it seems like they're just going to keep fighting in one form or another regardless.
So the Ukrainians are remarkable people, and the fight is extraordinary. And what we're seeing is, with the political gridlock in the United States, we're seeing Europe step up, and that's very heartening. I honestly think there's space for Australia to do more here too, really. We've got spare capacity. We've got the ability to contribute more. We've got some limits we've imposed on ourselves, where we give kit that isn't then backfilled for the Australian Defence Force. I think we could actually do more.
There is more.
There's more we can do.
Donald Trump says, well, it's pretty clear, and a lot of US analysts say that if Trump wins, and he's made it pretty clear from his statements as well, that the support for Ukraine is going to end. If that does happen, the dollars dry up from the United States. Does Europe pick up the slack enough to keep Ukraine where it needs to be in that conflict?
So this generates a broader question about the nature of NATO if Trump comes into office, and whether NATO is able to kind of cover the gap of a retreating America. Now, most pundits are saying NATO isn't going to fold. The United States would face a lot of pressures to not fold, but it can withdraw support, it can withdraw operational support, and that means the Europeans are going to have to step up. My sense is that we're going to see a revitalisation of Europe, the European concept, the European Union, and the Marshall dimension of a European Union. The Swedes joining NATO, the fact that the whole of Scandinavia is now part of it. You've got voters' exceptions, but Orban in Hungary, but essentially a surprisingly united Europe, ponying up more than they've ever done before.
Yeah, well, that certainly backfired, the Scandinavian impact, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Putin. John Blaxland, great to see you.
Good to be with you,
Talk to you soon.